Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, Jesse with the Common Nerd, bringing you pop culture and all things dirty through a common sense lens. And needless to say, boys and girls, I have been absolutely fascinated with the Gina Carano Disney Star Wars lawsuit. And obviously, after all of the views that we got last week on the video of Disney absolutely refusing to comply with Gina's lawyers and this lawsuit, well, it seemed like a lot of you are very much interested in this as well. And boys and girls, we now have an update because, as was talked about last week, the lawyers did indeed say that they were going to they were going to file something to force Disney in order to actually reveal all of their stuff. And guess what, boys and girls? That's exactly what happened. The Walt Disney Company has now been forced by the judge to turn over the documents that they were trying to hide and keep out of the public eye, and especially keep out of Gina Carano's hands. And the documents that they are getting, while not everything, are definitely going to shine a very giant light onto the inside of the Walt Disney Company once it all gets exposed. And that's exactly what we've got right here. Because as you can see over here from fandompulse.substack, Gina Carano reacts after judge orders Disney to turn over financial documents. And another article over here from thatparkplace.com. Gina Carano wins big against Disney in lawsuit discovery battle. Judge orders Disney to hand over actor pay records within 20 days. Yes, boys and girls, and that includes the likes of Pedro Pascal and everybody else over there at Disney Stars that was involved with the Mandalorian. They're going to know all the money that these people were paid and going to find out exactly what her compensation should probably be. And it looks like there's probably going to be even more documents coming to Gina Carano and her lawyers later on in the future, because the judge has basically already indicated that this is something they can continue to use against Disney in order to force them to comply, because clearly they don't want to give up all the records. They don't want all of their dirty laundry to get exposed out there to the public eye, which is exactly what's going to end up happening, because my understanding is Gina Carano is indeed going to be asking for a jury trial when it all comes down for this one, so that way we all get to see it reported in the public eye. Boys and girls, this is going to be a beautiful, beautiful thing, and Disney's loss is Gina and the rest of us is gain out there, and it's all good news for Star Wars fans. So we're going to check out this article from fandompulse.substack, and then of course we've got the actual tweets from Gina's lawyer as well as from Gina herself verifying everything that is in the Fandom Pulse article. But before we do, if you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share with all your friends, and subscribe or follow if you have not already, boys and girls, because we are grinding, we are growing, and I could not do that without every single one of you. We just crossed 1,700. We're almost to 1,800, and it sure would be a grand help if you would come in and join our little group over here as well. Also, leave us a comment in the section down below. Let us know what you think about all this. Does it surprise you at all that Disney, with all of their money, with all of their lawyers, and everything else, are actually getting forced to expose and disclose documents that they clearly do not want to and are worried about what kind of look it will end up being for them? Are you excited to see Gina Carano actually succeed in her case? Do you think she will end up winning? And how bad do you think this will all end up turning out for Disney and Star Wars as a whole when it's all said and done? Because God forbid Disney talks a big game about wanting good, strong female characters, but for some reason when their politics slightly disagree with all of the insanity of the activist cult out there, boy, they sure don't have a problem firing you in every way, shape, or form. Now do they? So, this, boys and girls, if you do also like to support our channel, please check the links in the description as well. All right, from fandompulse.substack and our dear sweet John F. Trent. Gina Carano shared her thoughts after a judge ordered the Walt Disney Company to turn over financial documents as part of her lawsuit from the company. And let's go over here, just give a little Montero, because I love thatparkplace.com, but they give a lot of backstory that we've covered several times over and over and over again in their article, and Fandom Pulse just gives us a little bit of the facts. But let's start off with their intro here. In a major legal victory for Gina Carano in her lawsuit against Disney, the U.S. District Court for the Central District of California has granted a motion to compel Disney to turn over key documents related to how other Star Wars actors were compensated, including big names like Pedro Pascal, Rosario Dawson, and the cast of The Mandalorian and Grogu. Obviously, that's the movie that's supposed to be coming out. You know, the first Star Wars movie in like over a decade in the theaters. The order comes after 8 months of what Carano described as Disney deflecting and stalling in her wrongful termination lawsuit. Obviously, we covered all of that very well in the last video that we did last week. Go check that out if you want the full background and all of the details. So Gina Carano shared her thoughts after a judge ordered the Walt Disney Company to turn over financial documents as part of the lawsuit against the company. Carano filed a lawsuit against the Walt Disney Company back in February of 2024, suing her former employee for wrongful discharge and refusal to hire and sex discrimination. Yes, boys and girls, because she's a woman. And it works out really nice with some of California's laws. So you go, girl, and you get yourself paid. The suit alleges Disney terminated Carano's employment and took other retaliatory actions to limit and deny her future employment opportunities. Obviously, they tried to get her blacklisted in Hollywood, and especially with all of the media coverage, all of the legacy media institutions dogpiling on her and everything else, trying to make her look like an ist and a phobe and all of this other kind of stuff. Yeah, needless to say, it was literally a coordinated PR campaign directly trying to demonize Gina Carano. Including but not limited to making maliciously false statements about Carano with the intention of damaging her reputation and thus her ability to find and retain work. I mean, literally, what was the last thing she did? A movie for the Daily Wire? Yeah. Defendants treated Carano differently than her similarly situated male co-workers, who likewise expressed their personal political views on social media, but upon information and belief were not counseled or disciplined, let alone terminated, i.e. our dear sweet beta soy male boy Pedro Pascal, who obviously makes his political opinions very obvious on social media platforms. He's gotten a lot of backlash for the fans from it over the years, but of course, and said far worse things than what Gina Carano said, but of course, he still got his job. Is it because he's a man? That sounds kind of sexist now, doesn't it, Disney Star Wars? In the latest ruling, United States Magistrate Judge Stephen Kim ordered the Walt Disney Company to provide Carano and her team a spreadsheet, chart, or similar summary listings of the compensation, including constituent elements? I have no idea. Constituent elements for Pedro Pascal, Rosario Dawson, and Carl Weathers, as applicable for seasons 1, 2, and 3 of The Mandalorian. For Rosario Dawson in the Book of Boba Fett, and seasons 1 and 2 of Ahsoka. For Amanda Steinberg in The Acolyte. Oh, boys and girls, please let Amanda Steinberg, the girl that was twerking in a video trying to bash Star Wars fans out there who didn't like her hot garbage show, calling us a bunch of ists. Yeah, literally, boys and girls, I want to see how much Disney wasted on that girl for that show, only to have her completely and totally blow up any hope for that show in the social media. I mean, I would love to see what she was paid, because whatever it was way too much. For Diego Luna in season 1 and 2 of Andor, together with defendant's verification of the accuracy and completeness of the compensation information provided. Kim also noted that Disney must also include compensation for any lead and supporting actors in season 1, 2, and 3 of The Mandalorian who have been or are expected to be hired to reprise their roles from that television show in the anticipated feature film, The Mandalorian and Grogu, together with defendant's verification of the accuracy and completeness of the compensational information provided. Basically, they have to say that they're not lying about the information they're giving them. They're not fluffing the numbers, and it has to be completely and totally true. Otherwise, they could get perjured, get into basically a bunch of more trouble with the court system out there. But think about this, too, because why would they be asking for all of this? Why are they asking for all of the rest of the season 1, 2, and the people of Mandalorian Grogu? She wasn't in any of that, right? But the expectation was, we already knew they had Star Wars had a lot of plans for Cara Dune's character going forward. We knew she was supposed to lead, I can't remember the chick's name now, but the Star Wars Rogue Squadron. She was supposed to lead that, right? She was supposed to be obviously, she would have been in season 3 of that. She would have been in the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, because she was such a big fan favorite. She was a big hit with the audience out there. Everybody loved her. She worked really great as a character. So this is all money she missed out on because they fired her for what they believe is a political post and not just a moral statement, boys and girls. So yeah, that's why all of that's included. So Carano's attorney, Gene Scher, shared on social media. And let's just go straight over to his post right here. So he goes, this is what Gene says. Discovery motion granted in Gina Carano's case against Disney. The court is forcing Disney to turn over information about how stars like Pedro Pascal, Rosario Dawson, and others from The Mandalorian and other Disney Plus Star Wars shows and the forthcoming movie, The Mandalorian Grogu, were compensated for their roles. Disney must produce verified spreadsheets showing actor pay across multiple shows, key evidence that will help show the financial harm that Disney imposed on Gina when it unfairly and unlawfully terminated her. And that's the big thing, right? Because Disney out there is in Burbank, right? They've got a lot of laws in California, a lot of labor laws and stuff like that. And yeah, they clearly fired her for political reasons. While the court's order did not give Gina access to everything she was looking for, it made clear we can seek further evidence on an actor compensation if our expert concludes such evidence is still necessary after we review what Disney produces in response to this order. The court also required Disney to move quickly, giving them only 20 days to comply with the order. The order shows the court won't let Disney bury relevant information in this high-stakes battle by playing procedural games. And that's a beautiful thing to see about this, too, because that's always been Disney's strategy in the past, right? Is they knew you were poor, they knew you were broke, they knew your money was nothing compared to them, right? And they would just delay you, and they would just push back against you over and over and over again until eventually you ran out of money and had to give up because you couldn't keep paying for your lawyers, right? Well, and that's the difference over with this one, because Elon Musk is backing this lawsuit. Guess what, Disney? You ain't got more money than Elon Musk, at least not when it comes to the amount of money you can spend on lawyers, and clearly Elon is going to take this all the way to the edge, and so is Gina Carano. She is exactly on point with all of that kind of stuff. So this is one of the beautiful things. Obviously, we can go through all of that, and then, of course, we've got Gina's post is here as well, responding to this. She says, this is a small breath of fresh air in this long, arduous process. I am grateful to the court for moving so quickly. I look forward to the details of my case becoming public and clearing my name. And trust me, that's the other thing about this. This is what we're all hoping for. We want all of this to come public. We want names. We want files. We want documents. We want money shown. We want to see all of this kind of stuff out there because it gives us the evidence and the proof about everything we've been saying about Disney Star Wars for the last few years and the kind of insane things that go on behind the scenes. Now, they haven't necessarily said anything about like the Slack messages and the emails and all that other kind of stuff that Gina asked for, but if they can find a legitimate reason to ask for those and have to put it into compensation and things like that, then clearly this judge is going to be willing to hand over those kind of things. Her lawyers just have to prove that kind of point. And absolutely, I think that stuff should absolutely be exposed because that's the really juicy parts. She says, which will allow me to continue doing what I love without such brutal discriminations. I remain incredibly grateful for this opportunity to defend myself against this Goliath. Thank you, Elon Musk and X. And obviously, Gina Carano comes from a pretty well-off family out there in Las Vegas and stuff like that, but they're not going to be able to blow. I mean, that's not Disney money, right? They're not going to be able to blow that kind of thing. And Gina Carano's not the person that's going to go to her family and ask for money to pursue a lawsuit and stuff like that. I just don't believe she's that kind of person that she would do that anyway. But Elon Musk flat out offered out there on X to go, hey, if any of y'all want to sue these mega corporations, if any of y'all want to sue Disney for any of this kind of wrongful termination stuff, you give me a call. You let me alone. No, and obviously as Gina being one of the biggest front facings of the kind of discrimination that Star Wars and Disney has no problem putting against their female employees that for some reason simply don't agree with them 100% politically. This is one of those things that she is the absolute poster child for this kind of thing. It's literally somebody who stepped a few toes out of line, got some backlash for not complying with the woke acolytes of the cult, whether it be the trans struggle session they wanted her to sit through, or simply posting about how the fact that you try to prioritize, you try to say all of your neighbors are bad people simply because of X. Well, you start grouping people into a giant lump like that, and it doesn't end up panning out for very well for anybody. We know where that goes. It's the path that leads to some very bad things that happened in World War II. So needless to say, boys and girls, this is a giant win, not only for Gina Carano, but for any Star Wars fan out there that was upset by her getting fired, who absolutely loved her character as being a strong female in there who could kick butt and was smart and beautiful and wonderful and was just a wonderful character that everybody enjoyed right from the beginning of her seeing her. You know, it was just great. We were like, oh, it's going to be a girl boss, but she wasn't like that at all. And of course, when you actually hire an actress as a former MMA fighter, it's a little more believable when you watch her knock the crap out of somebody, right? It all makes sense. It all lines up. So boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, I cannot wait Like Gina said, for all of this information to get publicly disclosed, for all of it to come out in a court of law, because Disney is going to do their best to try to bury this and drag their feet as much as possible. They've already had the court case pushed back like another 5 months, right? So it doesn't look so bad at the end of their quarter report if all of this stuff gets exposed at the end of their fiscal year and all of that kind of stuff. And it's one of those situations where this is an absolute win. And this is the kind of information we need to expose Disney for all the underhanded things. This is the exact same kind of thing. This is the kind of thing we've needed to put them in check for all of their nonsense political bias, because that's exactly what this came down to. Disney was absolutely, especially Star Wars. Star Wars is a DOA franchise, and it's because every single aspect of their leadership is completely and totally possessed by the spirit of the age. They are filled with a woke mind virus, and they are not willing to let it go in any way, shape, or form. And it drove them insane. That one of their most popular, brand new Star Wars characters out there was a strong, beautiful female out there who decided to push back and didn't line up with exactly all of their talking points and was willing to stand up for herself and push back. Star Wars, Disney Star Wars. Why do you hate strong females? Why do you hate strong women with their own opinions that don't line up with your cult? Oh, that's right. Because you're nothing more than a bunch of hypocrites. It was your way or the highway inside of Disney Star Wars. Gina Carano stood up for herself just a little bit, and you fired her for it. And guess what? Now a judge is smacking you down and saying comply or else. You've got 20 days on the clock, Disney. Cough it up, or we're going to have you back in court with even more issues coming after you. And I, for one, think it's a beautiful thing to see. Because Disney Star Wars, you decided to dance with the devil and buy off on all the woke cult nonsense, and now you're getting exactly what you deserve. Hashtag I stand with Gina, and hey, why not make Star Wars great again, boys and girls?